Quick, call for an ambulance. My husband, who had always gotten under my skin, collapsed on the floor, drenched in a cold sweat. The paramedics were on the scene almost instantly. They assessed his condition and placed him on a stretcher. One of them turned to me and asked, "Are you his wife? Could you accompany us to the hospital?" As they loaded my husband onto the stretcher, he gave me a desperate look. I met his gaze without flinching. "No, I won't," I replied firmly, without a second thought. "What?" His voice was shaky, as if he had lost his grip on reality. "You're abandoning me now? I'm a stranger to you? Please, Lydia, don't do this." I pulled out something I'd been carrying for the past few days, something I had kept hidden in my pocket. As soon as he saw it, his face drained of color. "After all these years of treating me like a servant, you think I'll show you mercy? This is my revenge. Caleb, I won't ever forgive you. I'm Lydia, 36 years old, and I've been living with my husband Caleb in a rented apartment. I first met Caleb through a work colleague when I was still employed full-time. Despite being more introverted, I occasionally attended social gatherings hosted by my colleague, who had a wide circle of friends. One day, I hesitantly agreed to attend a barbecue with his friends. That's when I met Caleb. To my surprise, we hit it off right away. Though I was initially hesitant, Caleb, the outdoorsy, adventurous type, turned out to be charming and funny. We exchanged numbers, went on dates, and eventually began a relationship. After several years of dating, Caleb proposed, and we got married. While he had always been kind and pulled me out of my comfort zone, encouraging me to try new things, over time, his behavior began to shift, making me uncomfortable. I quit my job and became a stay-at-home wife at Caleb's request. However, he started making snide remarks about it. For example, if I was unwell and dinner was delayed, he would say, "Lydia, where's my dinner? Sorry, I wasn't feeling well today and had to rest. Could you take a bath first while I finish up?" I'd reply. His response would be, "You're a housewife, Lydia. It's your job to make sure the meals are on time." He never seemed concerned about my health, and that really hurt me. On another occasion, I mentioned a reunion in my hometown and asked Caleb, "There's a reunion soon. I'll get the chores done, can I go?" His only response was, "You have the perfect life, Lydia, just sitting at home while I work. It must be nice to spend my money." Although Caleb was generally kind to me, carrying my purse and bringing me flowers after work, there were moments when his behavior bordered on inconsiderate. I even suggested working part-time to ease his concerns, but Caleb insisted that wasn't necessary, and so I remained a full-time housewife. Then one day, out of the blue, I received a call from one of Caleb's relatives. I answered, feeling uneasy. "Lydia, Caleb's mother has collapsed." I froze in shock. The relative explained that she had visited my mother-in-law earlier, found her lying in the yard, and called for an ambulance. Panicked, I rushed to the hospital, where I learned her condition was still uncertain. As I arrived, Caleb came running in, winded from his rush. We went to her room where she lay, hooked to various machines. It was a painful sight. "Mom?" Caleb called out softly, but there was no response. He stayed at the hospital the entire day, and I went home to prepare for the stay. Eventually, my mother-in-law showed some improvement, able to sit up on her own, but she still needed help for the simplest tasks. I was hopeful that with therapy, she'd walk again someday. As her discharge date neared, I spoke to Caleb about plans, but he said something unexpected. "Oh, by the way, get ready. We're moving next week. Start packing our things." Confused, I asked, "What do you mean? Are we moving into your mother's house? I didn't hear anything about that. Did you decide this without consulting me?" Caleb's expression turned irritated. "Of course we're moving in with my mom. We'll help her recover. I've already canceled the lease on this place. Don't tell me you don't want to live with her. I'm the one earning here, so no complaints." I couldn't believe it. Caleb had already made the decision without discussing it with me. I had no choice but to comply. He seemed so focused on his mother's needs that he overlooked mine. A few days later, I found myself living with my mother-in-law. I had never taken on such a caregiving role before, and everything was new. My days revolved around feeding, bathing, and caring for her, but she didn't want me to care for her and barely spoke to me. When I tried to talk to her, she would retreat to her bed, claiming pain. Our relationship hadn't been bad when she was healthy, we'd even swapped snacks from the department store, but now, I was nothing more than a nurse to her. Meanwhile, Caleb, who had pushed for this living arrangement, barely came home. He'd go out for drinks after work, returning in the morning, and even on his days off, he found reasons to be away. When he did come home, he'd retreat to his room to play video games. I decided it was time to confront Caleb, so I spoke up while he was absorbed in his game. I understand you can't avoid overtime or drinking with your coworkers, but when you're home, can't you at least help me with your mother? Or even pitch in with some of the housework? I asked. Without even looking up from the screen, Caleb responded coldly. Are you really being this naive? Both taking care of the house and your mom are your responsibility. I'm working hard out there, you know. Oh, and I'm out of coffee, go make me some. Also, clean this room, and take these to the dry cleaner. I need them by Wednesday. He spoke without a second thought, tossing his dirty work clothes at me. I couldn't hold it in anymore. Enough, I snapped. I've been doing everything around here, taking care of your mother and running the house for a month straight, without a break. Why can't you just help out a little? Caleb slammed his game controller down on the desk, standing up with an angry thud. How dare you talk to me like that? Do you even realize who you're depending on? If you have a problem, then leave. Get your act together and get out. I could feel the sting of his words, but I couldn't leave, not with my mother-in-law being so helpless. I had little money saved up, and I didn't want to leave her alone. My heart heavy, I picked up his clothes and left the room. Months passed, and life only grew harder. Then one morning, everything changed. I checked on my mother-in-law as I did every day, but that morning, I found she was no longer breathing. I called for an ambulance, but it was too late. Caleb, devastated, cried uncontrollably, but strangely, I couldn't bring myself to cry. I felt numb, my mind racing. He hadn't helped her in any way. The moment I realized I no longer had to care for her, I felt an unexpected sense of relief, and guilt quickly followed. The funeral came and went, and 2 weeks later, I began sorting through her things. Caleb had gone to work, so I took it upon myself to clean out her room. I boxed up her clothes and accessories, but there wasn't much to go through. I moved on to the cabinet by her bed, where I found a large can on the bottom shelf. I remembered it. It was a can of assorted sweets I'd given her years ago when she was well. Inside, however, was something unexpected, a letter addressed to me. The envelope was shaky in my hands as I opened it, the handwriting trembling. It read, Lydia, I am so sorry for making you take care of me. I felt ashamed to ask you to work for me every day. I was also ashamed of my son, Caleb. I know how badly he treated you. Lydia, you should leave him and live your life the way you want. I know you have suffered because of him. At the end of my days, I was glad I could spend them with you. Thank you. Tears finally came, flooding out all at once. I cried harder than I had in months, my body shaking as I let the grief and anger release. And in that moment, I knew what I had to do. I would divorce Caleb. 10 days later, Caleb's behavior hadn't changed. As usual, he was treating me like an invisible servant. Lydia, where's my sock? And take my car to the wash. You've got nothing else to do today, right? He ordered, planning to golf with his colleagues. I couldn't believe it. Today was our wedding anniversary, but I didn't care anymore. What are you planning to do while I'm out golfing? You better not just sit there. You've got to clean, cook, do everything around here, he said, still oblivious to how much he was pushing me. Can you hear me? Hurry up and get my sock and a jacket, or I'll be late. Just then, Caleb collapsed to the floor, clutching his stomach in agony. He was in obvious pain, his face drenched in sweat. He demanded I call an ambulance, his voice dripping with frustration. Frozen, I watched as he yelled, Hurry up, you're useless, can't you even call an ambulance? But in that moment, I felt a strange calm. Without a word, I dialed 911, and within minutes, paramedics arrived. They quickly assessed Caleb's condition and began loading him onto a stretcher. As they moved him, they asked, Are you his wife? Would you like to come with us to the hospital? Caleb's eyes met mine, pleading. As he lay on the stretcher, I met his gaze unwaveringly and said, No, I will not. His voice, panicked and desperate, came out as if he were losing his mind. This man is a stranger. I won't go with you. You handle everything. And then, I confronted him with something I had been holding in my hand for days. I had been holding on to the divorce papers for a few days, the ones I was forced to sign after our argument some time ago. My husband had always threatened that if I ever went against him, he would make me sign those papers. Caleb tried to grab the papers from me, but the pain in his body kept him from moving much. He ended up slumping back on the stretcher, unable to put up any resistance. Please leave now, I told the paramedics calmly. With that, they took him away in the ambulance. He probably looked like a pathetic husband being abandoned by his wife. It was hard to feel any sympathy. I watched the ambulance drive away. Then I left the house myself. It took a while, but the divorce was finalized. While Caleb was in the hospital for the week, I packed up my things and sent them to my parents' house. Then, one day, I bumped into him at the grocery store. Lydia, don't do this. You love me, don't you? Please don't leave. I know I messed up. I just got carried away. You always listened to me, and I took that for granted, he begged. His once domineering attitude was gone, replaced with desperation. He seemed so small and pathetic now. What are you saying? It's too late now. The divorce is final. You should just move on and live your life. He looked absolutely stunned, his hands trembling and his face turning pale. Well, that's it. Goodbye, I said, turning away. 6 months had passed since Caleb and I split. One day, he showed up at my parents' house, ringing the doorbell and calling my name so loudly I had no choice but to answer. Of course, he wanted me back. As I stayed silent, he began listing off all the difficulties he was facing. He couldn't cook, so he only ate takeout or frozen meals. He had gained weight since we divorced, his face and stomach noticeably fuller. He also couldn't figure out laundry, wearing wrinkled shirts that smelled strange. I see now how much you did for me, Lydia, Caleb said, tears streaming down his face. If I don't fix this, people at work will start to notice. I knew exactly what he meant. He wanted to manipulate me into taking care of him again. But that wasn't going to happen. Not now. Not ever. If you don't stop, I'll call the police, I warned, treating him like a stranger. He froze at the mention of the police and quickly left, still crying. I hoped he wouldn't return, and I believed he wouldn't. While Caleb struggled with his new life, I was thriving. I had moved into a small apartment of my own. It wasn't as luxurious as when I was married to him, but I loved the freedom it gave me. I could enjoy my own space and time. I thought finding a job at my age would be difficult, but a friend of mine had a connection, and I ended up securing a position replacing a retiring worker. It felt amazing to be able to focus on myself, spending my time and money however I wanted, without anyone telling me what to do. From here on out, I'm committed to taking care of myself, living life at my own pace. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay tuned.